Detroit Fairgrounds one afternoon in July 1936 with 27 cents and a few sugar cubes in one pocket, and in the other, a half pint of a cheap brandy he called Bow Wow wine.
Red Pollard had been at a racetrack where his last mount had simply refused to finish his race. He had a 6% winning average, which is horrendous for a jockey. He would have taken any mount that day, and he went to every single barn on the track. No one would hire him. And he went into the last barn, and Tom Smith gestures to the stall. He says, "I've got a horse here."
When they first met, he talked to the horse, and the horse responded positively, which this horse did not usually do. And Tom Smith, being a very astute judge of man and beast, that he knew there was something there, some affinity, a connection.
Pollard put his hand in his pocket, pulled out a sugar cube, and held it out to the horse. And the black muzzle touched the jockey's shoulder. It was the first affectionate thing Seabiscuit had done to anybody, and Tom Smith thought, "This is my man." Red Pollard had spent his career at bad racetracks on bad horses, the worst animals on the circuit. He understood troubled horses. He was not a guy you would put on a great racehorse, but this is the one he fit. So he wasn't a great jockey, but the moments he was on Seabiscuit, he was great.
Separately, they were nothing more than a failing jockey and a broken-down horse. Together, they would become hard-luck heroes for a troubled nation.
But I've got the type to get, 'cause I've got a pocket full of dreams. It's my universe, even with my empty purse, 'cause I've got a pocket full of dreams.
In the lean days of the Depression, thoroughbred racing was fast becoming America's most popular sport. Bans on wagering, passed at the turn of the century, had mostly been lifted by the late 1920s, and revenue-hungry states across the country had rushed to re-legalize racing.
Lucky George, the win is 6-1.
The opportunities for gambling in the 1930s were very limited. There were no state lotteries. Football was a very minor sport. If you wanted to bet on a prize fight, you had to go find a bookie or something. There were casinos in Nevada, but how many people go to Nevada? Hence, the only place you could really bet was at a racetrack.
I expect it was a release, the dream of making a lot of money, which was in everybody's head in those days. But I would think it was an escape for them, like the movies were, radio was escape, because it was kind of brutal times. People went to the races 6 days a week in those days, and 20,000, 40,000 people.
By the fall of 1936, Tom Smith still didn't know if his gamble on Seabiscuit would ever pay off. One afternoon, he put an exercise rider on the colt's back, pulled out his stopwatch, and shouted to turn Seabiscuit loose. The horse came rolling down the backstretch, his body flattening out with each stride, his speed building. By the time he blew by Smith, he was covering more than 50 feet a second and still picking up steam.
He kept thinking the horse couldn't possibly be going this fast. And the horse went under the wire, and he clicked the stopwatch, and the horse had crushed the track record. And this was in a workout. Horses rarely run as fast in workouts as they do in real races. And Smith knew what he had on his hands, and he had an opportunity here to conquer the racing world and to make history, and he knew he had to do everything right with this one.